We have just completed the last deck cycle of this cruise.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Fluctus Channel.
12 at Norfolk Naval Base.
The end of a ship's service in the United States Navy is never treated as a simple administrative event.
Captain, USS Cromwell is ready to be decommissioned.
These massive vessels spend years, sometimes decades, carrying sailors across oceans, projecting brute force, supporting combat operations, and becoming part of the identity of the crews who served aboard them. That is why decommissioning is often a solemn moment, especially when it involves a vessel with a long history or a tragic ending, such as the fire-damaged USS Bonhomme Richard. When a ship is retired from service, the Navy does not simply pull it from the fleet and move on.
Bonhomme Richard, arriving.
A formal ceremony is held dockside beside the vessel itself. The occasion is structured, ritualized, and deeply symbolic. It is a final act of reverence and respect for the ship, for the sailors who served aboard it, and for those connected to its history in one way or another. Protocol matters, and breaking from it is seen not just as procedural failure, but as a form of disrespect toward the vessel and its crew, including those long since gone.
Captain, United States Navy, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the decommissioning of USS Bonhomme Richard.
In the U.S. Navy, ships are decommissioned for several reasons. Some have simply reached the end of their useful lives and become outdated compared with newer designs. Others have suffered severe damage, developed costly mechanical issues, or fallen behind in upgrades to the point that repairing or modernizing them is no longer practical or profitable. During these ceremonies, it is common for the oldest living commanding officer to attend, along with plank owners or plank holders, those sailors who were part of the ship's original crew when it first entered operational service. Their presence gives the event a sense of continuity, linking the final day of the ship's life in the fleet with the very beginning of its career. A warship may be made of steel, engines, radar, and weapons, but in naval culture, it also carries memory, tradition, and identity. But decommissioning is only the beginning of a ship's second life, or final duty. Once retired, a vessel may be assigned one of several fates. Some are sent to inactive storage and gradually stripped of useful parts to support newer ships still in active service. Others are selected for a much more violent ending. They become targets in live-fire sinking exercises known as SINKEX events. In these cases, the ship serves the Navy one last time by helping crews test real weapons against a real hull at sea. A major example is the former tank landing ship USS Racine, which was sunk on July 12, 2018, off the coast of Hawaii. Among the weapons used against it was the UGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missile. Launched from the Los Angeles-class fast attack submarine USS Olympia. What had once been a functioning naval vessel became a live test target in a carefully planned destruction exercise. One of the best-known settings for these sink exercises is RIMPAC, the Rim of the Pacific exercise. Held every 2 years, it brings together allied countries from across the Pacific region. Its goals include strengthening military relationships, improving interoperability, and testing ships, aircraft, tactics, and weapons under realistic multinational conditions. During many of these exercises, the culmination comes with a live-fire event in which a decommissioned ship is attacked by a coordinated combination of surface ships, submarines, and aircraft. This is not just a spectacle. It allows forces to practice long-range targeting, multi-domain coordination, and real weapon effects against an actual vessel at sea.
Weapon is away.
Instead of relying only on simulation, they see exactly what happens when modern anti-ship systems strike a large naval target. Ships not chosen for sinking often head to the Naval Inactive Ship Maintenance Facility, sometimes informally called a ship graveyard. There, they are maintained in inactive status, stripped systematically for parts, or preserved in case some future need requires reactivation. One example is the Whidbey Island-class dock landing ship USS Fort McHenry. On April 16, 2021, it left Naval Station Mayport, Florida, bound for the Inactive Ship Maintenance Facility in Philadelphia. Once there, it entered inactive status, joining the ranks of ships that were no longer operational but not yet fully scrapped. Another example is USS Port Royal. The Navy's 2020 budget proposal called for the early decommissioning of Port Royal and several sister ships because they would not receive the upgrades needed to remain competitive in the future fleet. The cruiser was formally retired on September 29, 2022, during a ceremony at Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam and removed from the Naval Vessel Registry the next day. As of October 2022, its final disposition was still undecided, underscoring the fact that retirement from service does not always mean an immediate end. The military handles aircraft in much the same way. Just as retired ships may end up in inactive storage or graveyards, aircraft have their own massive holding and regeneration center. That place is the 309th Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group, or AMARG, located at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. Spread over approximately 2,600 acres, the facility holds more than 5,000 retired military aircraft. Known popularly as the Boneyard, it is one of the most famous aircraft storage sites in the world. From above, the rows of parked aircraft can look almost ready to fly again. But up close, the reality is more complex. Some aircraft are stored for potential future use. Some are preserved for parts. Others are gradually dismantled or recycled. The Boneyard is not just a graveyard. It is a giant system of preservation, cannibalization, and controlled retirement. Crews at AMARG do much more than park aircraft in the desert. They store airframes for possible future reactivation, remove parts for use across the military, and even perform depot-level maintenance and regeneration when an aircraft is brought back into service. Once a military aircraft is decommissioned, it is flown one final time to the facility and landed on its strip. For most, that landing is the last. Some are scrapped, some are preserved in reserve. A small number may one day return to service if the strategic need arises. That has happened before. B-29 bombers, for example, were retired after World War II and later brought back for combat operations in Korea. That is one reason AMARG takes preservation seriously. Many of the aircraft entering storage are protected from the elements with specialized methods, including Spraylat, a sprayable latex coating that protects against sun and sand damage. Critical openings are sealed, and desiccants are used to control moisture, helping preserve the integrity of the aircraft and its systems during long storage periods. Sometimes, however, military aircraft never make it to a graveyard at all. They are damaged, stranded, or forced down in places where recovery is impossible or too dangerous. In those cases, the aircraft may have to be dismantled or destroyed in place. One example involved a U.S. military C-130 transport aircraft that made an unplanned landing in a field north of Baghdad. Since the aircraft was outside a controlled environment and located in a potentially hostile region, the crew had to consider the risk that sensitive technology and equipment could fall into the wrong hands. In such situations, military procedures may require the aircraft to be disassembled, stripped, or even destroyed using controlled demolitions. This means wiring key components for detonation and carrying out a planned explosion to destroy important systems, or, if necessary, the entire aircraft. It is an extreme measure, but it reflects how seriously the military treats operational security when recovery is impossible. These kinds of incidents are rare, but they reveal an important point. Destruction in the U.S. military is not always about enemy action. Sometimes it is about protecting technology, safeguarding intelligence, or preventing critical equipment from being captured. That same logic extends beyond ships and aircraft to weapons themselves. Some items must be destroyed not because they are damaged, but because they are obsolete, dangerous, or banned. Chemical weapons are the clearest example. The United States spent years working to eliminate its chemical weapons stockpile in line with international commitments, using highly specialized destruction facilities and strict safety procedures. Important facilities in that effort were the Bluegrass Chemical Agent Destruction Pilot Plant in Kentucky and the Pueblo Chemical Agent Destruction Pilot Plant in Colorado. Bluegrass focused on destroying M55 rockets containing GB nerve agent, a highly dangerous chemical weapon. That operation began on July 6, 2022. under the oversight of the Program Executive Office for Assembled Chemical Weapons Alternatives. In Colorado, Pueblo handled projectiles and mortar rounds containing mustard agent. The site used a combination of the main plant and a static detonation chamber, or SDC, to process and destroy these weapons safely. On June 22, 2023, the final round at Pueblo was destroyed, marking the end of that stockpile. These efforts were not ceremonial. They were painstaking, technical, and essential to eliminating some of the most hazardous weapons ever fielded. In the US military, progress often means a constant cycle of renewal. In with the new, out with the old, the damaged, the obsolete, or the unsafe. That process can look dramatic when a decommissioned warship is sunk under missile and torpedo fire during a SINKEX. It can look quiet and methodical in a ship graveyard where parts are stripped away over time. It can stretch across thousands of acres at an aircraft boneyard where old bombers and transports wait in the desert sun. Or it can take place inside highly specialized destruction plants, where outlawed weapons are dismantled under strict controls. In every case, the principle is the same. Retiring military equipment is not just about disposal. It is about resource recovery, readiness, testing, safety, and the constant effort to keep the force technologically and financially sustainable. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our new content. See you next time.